Get this recording, and we are recording. Good morning, friends. Tony Pellegrini here with Teaching and Learning at SUU, and we're just very pleased this morning to be able to reach out and connect with Hala Swearingen here at SUU, and she has received this last year, a Distinguished Educator Award, and we'd love to know a little bit more about her and about some of the wonderful instructional and learning activities that she's engaged in participating and engaging and earning that reward. Hala, would you take a moment or two and maybe introduce yourself? Tell us a little about yourself.
Sure, Tony, I can do that. Let's see, as far as introducing myself, I have been teaching here. This will be the start of my 6th year. I started my career as a freelance illustrator for book publishing and children's books, and gradually worked into teaching, beginning with getting my MFA at Art Institute of Boston, and then teaching at Cal State Fullerton for 6 years before I came to SUU. I've been teaching illustration ever since.
Exciting, exciting. I loved what you shared about gently getting into education, or you didn't use this word, but incrementally getting into education. What piqued your interest there? What pulled you away from maybe full-time using your artistic skills to helping or encouraging or nurturing learners?
Well, Tony, I was working as a freelance illustrator full-time, and I loved what I was doing. It had been my goal to work full-time as a freelancer. Once I was there, I got lonely. I really did. I was working, and I had to put in a lot of hours. So like 24/7 work, and I'm all alone in my studio day after day. I got very, I just needed people, and I started to question my purpose in life. So getting into teaching, it not only helps me be around people, but it helps me to have more purpose, because I find that I'm happiest when I feel like I'm making a difference for other people. And doing artwork is great, but you don't always, in fact, you rarely see the influence that it has on others directly. So teaching is one of those things that can help me feel fulfilled.
That is exciting and not surprising at all to me. Many of my associates or people that I bump into really need that human connection. We're in a weird time in our life right now where we have to accept that connection via distance, but it is a part of our human nature. I did want to pose a question to you regarding
Yes.
the work with your learners. um, I can sense and hear the passion that you have both for your art, but also for those human connections that you make. Certainly, from time to time, you have a reluctant learner who maybe is looking for that passion. What are some of the things that you do to engage, encourage, motivate those that may be a little bit reluctant to the courses and the coursework that you share?
Yes. Well, for one thing, I'm hoping that my own excitement um, is a little bit contagious. I'm hoping that, because I am genuinely excited about what I teach, and I can't help but let that come through as I teach, and I hope that that brings others interest into it. And when I have a reluctant learner, I'm thinking about last week when this isn't at SUU, but I'm trying to work on teaching my sons how to play the piano. And
Good luck.
they are very reluctant learners, I have to say. So I tried a strategy with my son, and that is to just prick their curiosity. So as I was working with him the piano, he immediately gets frustrated and doesn't want to play anymore. And so I just had this thought come, okay, I said, Tim, why don't you go in the bathroom and get a washcloth, get it full of cold water, and just put it all over your face. And he looked at me like I was very strange. And he went and he did it. And he came back with this, wow, mom, why am I doing this? I said, I'm going to try to help you snap out of it. We're going to snap out of it. And so it piqued his curiosity. And he started playing some more and he just had a better attitude. And I don't know that that is a strategy you can use all the time, but sometimes I spontaneously try to come up with just something that can get them thinking in a different way, bounce them out of their reluctance, get them curious.
That is wonderful. As teachers or professors, we think, well, we're here to lecture, to impart this great information, and often we do that head on. But maybe, as you've identified with Tim, your boy,
Mhm.
maybe you have to come at it from a 90-degree angle and come in
Yeah.
from the side and say, "Hey, I've never thought of it that way before. I've never seen it that way before." I think that's
Mhm.
exciting. I think that's exciting. Um, Let me take a little bit of a different bend now. You work with other artists in the art department. You work with administrators
Yes.
in your department, of course, that are artists as well, and administrators from other content areas beyond that. And you work with students too that hopefully are feeling your passion and drawn to you because of that passion. Give me 3 words, would you please, that you think that those artistic peers, those administrators, and your learners might describe you. How would they describe you if they had a chance to be with us today, here with us today?
Well, I'm not sure how they describe me, but I thought about words
Okay.
and there's something I really want to share. So I'm going to say the first two words that come to my mind are organized and spontaneous. Like a almost contradictory.
Well, that's a dichotomy, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yes. So organized in the sense I do tend to be very organized. I like things to be organized. I like my notes to be organized. I plot out the whole semester class by class. I have the whole semester organized before I go in. Um, I used to type up all my class plans and have them all ready to go. And I realized that I had to do it a little differently. So spontaneous allows me, okay, the spontaneous side, I can just throw away all of that in an instant. Is that weird?
It's nice to
So
be prepared, but
yes,
yes, if something catches you on the way to work, maybe something that
yes.
you see or smell or feel or touch, you
Mhm.
can go a different direction. I'm sorry, it's
Yeah,
about you. Go right ahead.
yes. So what I've found is over the last few years, I've stopped typing my notes up for my lesson plans, and all my lesson plans are done with sticky notes. So my whole book, it doesn't look particularly clean and beautiful, my lesson plans, but the sticky notes allow me to change on a dime. So I have my days planned out ahead of time, and I have my topics, and I have my examples and my activities. But when I walk into class, or if I feel there's a need, I can take that sticky note and move it to another day. And I just jump into something totally based on the needs of the day, or an experience that happened to me that I really want to share. And so with that organization, I also allow for being really flexible. So I think those two things can be contradictory, but um, I'm trying to make them work together. I feel like that both of those things are my strengths, and so I combine them.
Wonderful. And I'm sticking my neck out a little bit here, just a
Yeah.
little bit, because you may not have this experience. But what are some of the things that you may do as you come into class and to engage your learners in saying, "Where are you coming from today? Where should we go today with the learning that we're going to do?" Do you have any of those
Right.
opportunities?
Yes, absolutely, because my class is being face to face and really hands on. One of the ways you walk in and you do sense an energy of the morale, like are people feeling down? Are people feeling excited? And if there's a mood in there that's a little bit lacking in energy, I just try to throw something new into the class that day. maybe we'll just do a spontaneous group activity that gets us all doing something totally new. For example, the other day I said, it's a drawing class where we're drawing heads and hands. I said, let's just see what it would be like to trace each other's heads and hands on the window. So half the class went outside the building and the other class was inside, and they held the pose and we traced them. And what did we learn from that? What did we learn about silhouette and gesture? So things like that will kind of hit me. And then also sensing the mood of the class along with that. um, I look at their drawings. So I walk in, they pin up the drawings or they have their drawings on their boards in front of them. And I walk around and look at them and I say, I always, I never cease to see a need that's not just in one place. I might see 6 or 7 or 8 or even all the students. Whoa, we need to address this issue because obviously they're not getting it or they need extra help. And so then I just go right into the need that I see that's displayed in the drawings that they've done.
Thank you so very much. And I kind of want to delve just a little bit deeper with that, those learning activities, whether they're group
Okay.
activities or course activities. Um, what are some things that you do and you started that, but maybe we could go just a little bit deeper. How do you help your learners really acquire those concepts that you want to share in class? You can see a need in your learners. How do you tie that need to the knowledge that you have of what they really need, or the next step as groups, or maybe even individuals where they need to go?
Yes. Well, sometimes it's really important that I sit down with a student and maybe 5 others are needing the help, but I might sit down with one in particular and have the other 5 look over my shoulder and I
Oh,
draw right on the student's drawings. Well, sometimes I'll put a tracing paper over the top so I don't mess their drawing up. But I try to just address it right there and draw right in front of them. That's really, really helpful. That's how teachers helped me in the past. And it's really helpful. But so there's so much of this: draw, look at it, see what needs to be improved, draw again. And so that's very individual because everyone's doing their own drawings. But I think a lot of times something that can help with a class is to get them out of their little isolated space and have group activities that can get them all excited about things, get them all learning. So whenever I can work in activities that would not only help their own art, but help the group as a whole, then I try to create those activities. And I've done things and I try to make them really ridiculous. So,
they'll remember that, won't they?
yes. So, and that's the whole point. So years and years ago, when I listened to this book on tape, on a cassette tape, and I wish I would have written down what the tape was, but it was all about how to memorize lists. And when you memorize a list, the easiest way to actually remember it is to attach one item on the list to another with a ridiculous visualization. So I could remember that I need to go to the store and buy bread and um, eggs because I imagine in my mind that you could make up a scenario like my bread is having a fight with the eggs. Okay. So the more ridiculous you make the connection in your brain, the more you remember it. So I've carried that into my teaching because it's just kind of me too, but also because I think it makes people remember things. So for example, this week I've been teaching my students the line quality cheer. Now, basically the idea is that there's certain ways to draw lines in such a way that they will appear to come forward and stand out on your drawings. And so I invented a cheer, and I put these kind of ridiculous actions to it. And then I had all these students who were used to kind of sitting and drawing their drawing and having their own personal space. I said, let's stand up and do a cheer. And so we did the line quality cheer: dark lines, come forward, and light lines, go back. And I put in these moves to it, and it's so ridiculous. I know I look like an idiot, but I think they'll remember. And that's the whole point. So things like that, or I might sing them the song of their drawing and sing in a very strange way. Or I might, one time I did a whole class where I did a game show. So they had to read this book and remember certain things from the book. So I provided them with a study guide. I said, after you read this book, you need to remember all this stuff, and we're going to have a special test. So when they came in, I had them choose teams, and then I got these buzzers that were like animal noise buzzers, like
Hmm.
cows and chickens and stuff. And then when I went through the questions and they had hit their buzzer and answered the question. It was probably the most fun review session I've ever had. And I was amazed because the students actually took me seriously and memorized the information ahead of time. It was a great competition. So anytime I can put something crazy in there, something strange, um, all within kind of a fun-loving way, I
Mhm.
love to do that. That makes
That
class fun.
that is wonderful, and really does very much address the last question I was going to address to you regarding unique approaches. A cow buzzer, that
Yes.
is a very unique approach. But what unique approaches that you use to help to really scaffold for your learners to say, this is where you are. Let me put up a support to you and get you where you need to be. Any other unique approaches that you'd be willing to share, kind of to wrap this up for us in regards to how do you
Yeah.
take your students from where they are to where you really would like them to be?
Yes. Thinking about where I want them to be. These students, they need to be able to acquire or develop, build the skill to be a professional artist. They can't just know about it. They have to be able to do it. So any chance I get, I to push them past the assignments. So for example, one of my thoughts is a student they're pretty advanced and they're maybe kind of bored, or I say, hey, here's 3 competitions we're going to enter. These are international, national competitions. I don't care what the assignment is for class. Let's get you entering these competitions. And I feel like if I can push them past seeing the classroom as the end all be all, we're going to move past that. And I've had students get in these competitions. It is so exciting. So I don't know if that's really a unique approach, but it's definitely something I emphasize all the time. And moving past just what the class requires.
Well, it's
I don't
very,
know if
I,
that answered your
I
question.
see it as very practical. Hey, next year when you're out there illustrating, you're going to
Yes.
want to participate in these. Why not? Why wait till then? Let's do it now. Life is real. It's going on now. Let's have you participate and engage. I love that approach. I think that's very unique.
Thanks.
Any last words of wisdom for us, Hala? Anything else that I have not covered or asked you that you were prepared to share? Anything at all that you would like to share with our listeners?
I think 2 things, and that
Okay.
is um, one of the things I was thinking about was my teaching philosophy. And I want to add something to that because usually I
Please.
talk about empowering. Okay, I want to empower my student, and I just mentioned that they have to be able to do this when they're done with school. They can't just know about it, and it's hard. It's so competitive. So along with that teaching philosophy, that when I walk into class, I want to be able to empower them with whatever it takes, is the teaching to their needs. Because I feel like, I've created a whole class based on needs. I'm teaching a drawing 3 class, but the class, all the things that I'm teaching in there were based on me looking at student drawings from across all of the classes and saying, you know what? These students need to draw heads better. We're going to focus on that in drawing 3, because I could just say drawing 3. I mean, it could be anything,
Hmm.
but let's focus on weaknesses. And then the other assignment is 100 hands. There's a tendency to draw hands in pockets, or in other words, to not draw the hands because they're tricky. So let's do 100 hands. So everyone's got to draw 100 hands. So teaching to their needs and empowering them. Those are 2 things I really, really try to do.
Thank you so very much, Hala. Thank you for taking these few minutes with me to share your passions. Friends, I would encourage you, if you've been inspired or intrigued or curious with what Hala shared, please reach out to her. She's very open and would love to maybe even trace your hands on her window. So
Yes, yes, very open.
get down to her class and pick her brain and pick her mind. Hala, thank you so much. We're so proud of you having you here at SUU, and please keep doing the wonderful things you're doing. Okay,
Thank you, Tony. I really was excited to share this today. Thanks so much.
you are welcome. You have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Okay,
Okay,
have a good one. Bye bye now.
thanks. Bye.